Okay, you messed up. You accused your partner of something they didn't do. You spiraled over nothing. You said something that you wish you could take back. And now you feel terrible. And I want to say, that's okay. You're allowed to feel bad. Feeling bad after you've hurt someone or handled something poorly is actually healthy. It means you care. So here's what I'm talking about today, the difference between feeling bad and living there, and what a lot of people do who struggle with jealousy and insecurity. They just don't feel bad. They post up there. They stay there. They set up a whole residence in the spiral. And today, I want to give you a way out of that. Something I call the pity timer. So welcome back. I'm Shannon Bryant. This is the show for people who are done letting jealousy and insecurity run their romantic relationship. So quick note before I get into it, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, go back and listen, because today's episode kind of picks up right where that one left off. So if you haven't, press pause here, go back, listen to that one. That episode ended with the idea that you can feel bad. You should feel guilty, not shame, but guilty, but you don't get to live there and you shouldn't live there. And today we're going to go deep on that. What does living there actually cost you? And how do you actually move through it instead of just stuffing it down or spiraling indefinitely? So before we go further, drop in the comments on a scale of 1 to 10, how long do you typically stay in the spiral after a jealous episode? Like, how long do you stay in it? 1, you bounce back fast, and 10, you're still thinking about it days later. Like, it's still awkward between you and your partner days or weeks later. So here's what happens when you stay in that kind of woe is me type spiral, not the spiral where it sends you where you're creating a million different things, but where now you've shut down and you're having this pity party for you and you feel really disconnected from your partner. And you start in on all of the like, oh, see, I did it again. Why would they want to be with somebody like me? I always do this. I'm too much to deal with. I'm so broken. I'm never going to get better. They're going to leave me. They deserve someone who doesn't put them through all this. Do you hear all that? That went from I overreacted about a text message to I am fundamentally unlovable. The spiral doesn't just keep you stuck in the moment. It keeps adding material. It builds a case against you. And the longer that you stay in it, the more convincing that case starts to feel. You start making it your identity. There's a real psychological cost to dwelling there. When we replay something over and over and over, when you keep picking at it, we actually strengthen that neural pathway that we're associating with it. We make it more familiar, more automatic, more us. So every time you spiral for hours or days after a jealous episode, you're not just feeling bad, you are quietly reinforcing the belief that this is who you are, a jealous person, an insecure person, someone who does this. So then, hey, brain, keep doing it. And the cruel irony is that the spiral feels like it's doing something productive. Like if you feel bad enough for long enough, you'll somehow fix it. But that's not how it works. Shame doesn't motivate change. It actually keeps you stuck in the story. You forget who you actually are. When you're deep in the spiral, you lose access to everything else that's true about you. All your good qualities, all the moments you handled things well, all the reasons your partner chose you in the first place and chooses to keep you, chooses to still be with you. The spiral has tunnel vision. It only shows you the worst version of the highlight reel. And if you stay there long enough, that becomes the only version that you can see. While you're spiraling, your partner isn't just waiting patiently for you to come out on the other side. They're living through it with you. Think about what that actually looks like from their side. They did nothing wrong. They got accused anyway. Then they watched you feel terrible about it. And now, hours later, maybe days later, you're still off. You're still being quiet. It's still weird. And they don't know if they're supposed to be mad, concerned, comforting, or just leave you alone. That is exhausting. And it's not fair. I talked a little bit about this in the episode last week. They end up managing you instead of themselves. Here's what typically happens when the spiral goes on for too long. Your partner either has to focus all their energy on trying to bring you out of it, reassuring you, being extra attentive, walking on eggshells, or if they're still frustrated about what happened, then they have to push their own feelings aside and deal with yours. Either way, their emotional experience gets overridden by yours again. They can't just process what happened and move on because you're still in it. And the longer you're in it, the longer the whole incident stays alive in your relationship. When you spiral for a long time after a jealous episode, the original incident doesn't actually end. It just keeps going and going, just in a different form. Your partner went from being accused to watching you implode to now having to manage the aftermath of that implosion that you did. That's 3 separate things that they're dealing with, and none of it was their fault. The spiral takes what could have been a single incident and turns it into an extended event. Now, every relationship has friction. Every couple has moments where someone reacts poorly or misreads the situation or says something that they shouldn't have. That is just normal. What determines whether those moments become a wedge or just a blip is largely about how quickly you recover. When jealousy episodes are followed by long, drawn out, like, oh, it's still uncomfortable and I'm still being weird and you're still being weird and we're still being weird together. And now I'm feeling even more bad about myself. And now I'm making comments that are even worse about myself. When that happens, jealousy starts to feel like a defining feature of the relationship. I know it's already big enough now. It's just creating it and making it even bigger. Not just now something that happens sometimes, but something that takes over the entire relationship. But when the recovery is faster, when you can feel the feelings, own what happened, apologize cleanly, and actually move forward, the same episode doesn't have to carry nearly as much weight. It's just then something that happened, not something that defines you. Your partner's tolerance has a limit. Most partners of people who struggle with jealousy, they're patient. They understand that it's not about them. They want to help, but the patience has a ceiling. And long, repeated spirals just chip away at it. And in fact, I feel like it makes them have less patience next time. What keeps that ceiling high is evidence that things can get better and quickly. And one of the most powerful pieces of evidence that your partner can see is that after a rough moment, you don't disappear into it for days. You feel it, you guys deal with it, and then you come right back to normal. That's not minimizing what happened. That's showing them and yourself that you have the capacity to move through it. Quick recovery changes the narrative. And here's what fast recovery actually communicates to your partner. It says, I know what happened, I own it, and I'm not going to let this take over both of our days or weeks. That kind of recovery builds trust over time, not, it doesn't make the jealousy never happened and that's still big, but your partner starts to see that when it does happen, it doesn't have to be a catastrophe. It can just be, we had this moment, got into it a bit, and we moved on. So why don't we just do that? Why is it so hard to actually move through it instead of spiraling again? If spiraling didn't feel useful on some level, nobody would do it. So let's be honest about why it's so hard to stop. I feel like the spiral feels like penance, right? Like if you feel bad enough, you're somehow paying for what you did. Like the suffering is proof that you care, that you're taking this seriously, that you're not just brushing it all off. And of course, it's your insecurity there. But penance isn't the same thing as change. Feeling terrible for days doesn't make it less likely that you're going to do it again. It makes 3 more days miserable for everybody involved. We could be afraid that moving on means, oh, it didn't matter. I don't think this is a big deal. There's also a fear underneath the spiral that says, if I stop feeling bad, it means I don't really care. That recovering fast is somehow dismissive or shallow or like, I don't recognize how bad this is. That's not true. Moving through something is not the same as like moving past it and ignoring it. You can take it seriously, you can learn from it, and you can choose to not let it own the next 3 days of your life. Those things are not in conflict. We don't maybe know what through actually looks like. And honestly, a lot of people spiral because they genuinely don't know, like, what is the alternative? They know that stuffing it doesn't work, but they also don't have a process for what actually moving through it looks like. So the spiral just kind of keeps going until it runs out of fuel on its own. That's what the pity timer is for. It's for your partner, for you, for the relationship. The pity timer is exactly what it sounds like. It's a defined window of time that you give yourself to fully feel the feelings after a jealous episode. Not suppress them, not like perform being okay, but actually feel them. And then when that timer goes off, you make a deliberate choice to move forward. And it doesn't mean that you have to be completely over it. It doesn't mean that everything's resolved, but you've given it its time and now you're choosing not to give it anymore. So what do you do in that window, in the pity window? This is not just sitting and stewing. The window actually has purpose. So during your pity timer, you're doing a few very specific things. Feeling it fully. Let yourself be embarrassed, frustrated, sad, whatever is actually there. And don't perform the recovery with your partner yet. You want to like write it all out, get it out, get the spiral out of your head and onto paper. What you're actually afraid this means about you. What is the story that you're telling yourself right now? Getting it out of your head and in front of you changes your relationship to it. So what is true? Before that timer ends, write down the 3 things about you that are also true that your spiral's blocking out. Not whatever they say, toxic positivity. I don't know why they came up with that word, but okay, whatever, even if, okay? But it's not untrue things. Like there are actual, real, great things about you. You are also this, and this. You have also done this. This one moment is not the whole picture. This one jealous meltdown is not everything about you. So how long should the timer be? And this is really personal. It takes some maybe experimenting with, but as a starting point, give yourself enough time where you know, like I'm actually feeling it and not so much time that you're feeding it, right? Okay. So that just came out. Enough time that you can feel it, but not feed it. That's how much time. For some people, maybe that's 20 minutes. For others, maybe it's a couple hours. It just depends. But what you're looking for is the window that feels good and it feels real and it feels sufficient and not kind of this open-ended until I feel better. No, that has no ceiling, right? You've got to put a ceiling. The ceiling is the whole point. The timer creates a container and the container is what makes it possible to actually close that loop instead of leaving it open indefinitely. So what happens then when the timer goes off? You make a choice, not a feeling, a choice. And you say, I've given this all the time I'm going to give it today. And my partner and I have given it all the time that we're going to give it today. And then, if you can, go do something physical. Get up, go outside, make something, move your body. The physical shift helps signal your nervous system that, hey, that chapter's over. It's done. It's not magic, but it works. And if the spiral tries to come back later that day or that night, and it might, you have something to say back to it. You already gave it your time. We're not doing this again today. No more. It's over. So let me know if you've ever tried something like this where you've set a timer like, okay, I'm going to have a pity party for this long. And I don't know what else to call it other than a pity party because that's what I feel like we do when we're in it. And quite frankly, we're not really thinking about how do I go recover with my partner. We're thinking about what makes us so horrible. And we don't need to keep doing that. Moving forward after a jealous episode is not about pretending it didn't happen, but we definitely don't need to also make it about punishing ourselves until you feel like you've paid for it enough. It's about choosing deliberately, on purpose, not to let one hard moment take more than its fair share of your life or your partner's life or the life of the relationship that you're trying to build. You get to feel bad. That's okay. You're allowed that. What you're working towards is getting better at feeling it, moving through it, and then getting back to you. Here's what your partner sees when you do that. They see someone who takes it seriously, doesn't let it swallow them whole, and over time, that starts to change the story for both of you. So set the timer, feel it, and then get out of it. Until next time, take care and remember, you're not alone.